Hey everyone, my name is Dennis Clark. Welcome to the premiere episode of the Man Cave Insider. What this is a project that I've been working on with my daughter. We are in my man cave. This is a bedroom in our house that is filled with things that have been important to me my entire life. And they have stories behind them and they had significance behind them. So what I did is I asked my daughter to pick something, hand it to me, and that's what the episode would be about. So today's episode is about the Batman Anthology, 1989 to 1997. This is a 8-disc DVD set that I purchased back in 2005. Now, when Batman came out in 1989, it was an event film. If you recall, in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of superhero movies like there are now. Now, Marvel releases 2 to 3 movies a year. DC releases 2 to 3 movies a year. And as a fan of those movies, I love it. But when Batman came out in 1989, there hadn't really been a big superhero movie aside from the Superman movie. Superman 2 came out in 1981. Superman 3 came out in 1983. And Superman 4 came out in 1987. And by the time Superman 4 came out, the series was well on its last legs, and it was another 19 years until another Superman movie came out. So when Batman came out in 1989, this was the event film of the summer. And the summer of 1989 already had a lot of great films coming out. Had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, had Ghostbusters 2, Lethal Weapon 2, Great Balls of Fire, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. But everywhere you looked, up until the release of that movie, you saw the Batman symbol everywhere. And the movie was directed by Tim Burton, who previously had directed Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and he had directed Beetlejuice. And his decision to cast Michael Keaton in the title role of Bruce Wayne Batman met with a lot of controversy because people had feared that this was going to be more of a comedic take on Batman, which had been done in the 60s with the Adam West TV show and the Adam West movie. And a lot of people did not want to see that go in the same direction. When the trailer for this movie came out in January of 1989, it was quickly dispelled. And the excitement for the movie just grew and grew until it came out in June of that year. While the casting of Michael Keaton was controversial, the casting of Jack Nicholson in The Joker was not. And was probably one of his most famous roles. I also featured Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. The role was originally cast with Sean Young, who had a horse accident a few weeks before filming, broke her wrist, and had to be replaced. So this started the Batman Anthology. Now, when the movie came out, at the time, it was the biggest opening for a movie ever. It was averaging about $10 million a day. It went on to gross $260 million. And I'll show you the DVD. Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton, and Kim Basinger. Of course, because of the success of this movie, it was only fitting that there be a sequel. So 3 years later came Batman Returns, also again directed by Tim Burton, with Michael Keaton returning as Batman, Danny DeVito as the Penguin, and Annette Bening, the wife of Warren Beatty, was originally cast to play the Catwoman, but she became pregnant and had to step out of the role. Ironically enough, Sean Young showed up at Warner Brothers lot dressed as Catwoman, trying to get a meeting with Tim Burton to play the part. He wound up not meeting with her, and of course Michelle Pfeiffer was cast in the role. Now, when Tim Burton was making the first movie, he had a lot of restrictions. This was a big studio film. There was a lot of money. There was a lot on the line. So by the time the sequel came out, because it had been so successful, Tim Burton had a lot more creative input into the movie. If you look at the first one and the second one, this definitely has more of a Tim Burton feel to it. He'd made Edward Scissorhands between Batman and Batman Returns, and a lot of people criticized the movie for having that eerie Tim Burton feel to it. It was a lot more of a darker movie than the first one, with the villains being the Penguin and Catwoman. So while the movie was very successful, it was the most successful movie that year. It had done significantly less than the original Batman. But the studio still wanted to make a third movie. And the third movie, of course, was Batman Forever. Now, Tim Burton stepped out from directing. He felt the pressure from the studio, and he stayed on as a producer while Joel Schumacher came on to direct it. And upon reading the script, Michael Keaton backed out because he just wasn't happy with the direction the script was going. So, of course, Val Kilmer was cast as Batman. This was hot on the heels of him playing Doc Holliday in Tombstone. And, of course, Val Kilmer had done Top Gun, Top Secret, Willow. He played Jim Morrison in The Doors. And the villains in this were the Riddler. Originally thought it was going to be played by Robin Williams, but it went to Jim Carrey. At the time, it was more of a surprise because, Jim Carrey hadn't really been known for films, but the year before he did Ace Ventura, he did The Mask, he did Dumb and Dumber, and he got offered the role of the Riddler. Two-Face, Harvey Dent, was played by Tommy Lee Jones, who had recently won an Academy Award for The Fugitive. Chris O'Donnell played Robin, and Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian. Originally, that role was cast to be played by Rene Russo, but when Michael Keaton stepped out, they thought that Nicole Kidman was closer in age to Val Kilmer. The movie had a little more colorful feel to it. It had a very stylistic approach to it, more colorful, more poppy, and had a great soundtrack. Had the song by U2, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. Had the song Kissed by a Rose by Seal. And the movie was very successful, more so successful than Batman Returns. So much so, whereas the original three movies came out 3 years apart, they decided to make a fourth movie and have it come out in 2 years. And of course, that was the ill-fated Batman and Robin. Joel Schumacher returned to direct. Val Kilmer was already obligated to do a big screen adaptation of the TV show The Saint, so he was unable to do it. So George Clooney was cast as Batman. Interesting note about George Clooney, he was working on the TV show ER at the time. Both shows were being shot on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank, California. So George Clooney would work on Batman for 4 days. He would work on ER for 3 days. So for several months, he would work 7 days a week doing both the show and the movie. The villains were immediately announced as Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy. Early speculation said that Mr. Freeze was going to be played by Patrick Stewart, and a name thrown around for Poison Ivy was Julia Roberts. Ultimately, they went with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He got paid $25 million for just 5 weeks of work on this movie. Poison Ivy was played by Uma Thurman. Chris O'Donnell returned as Batman, and Alicia Silverstone was cast as Batgirl. Now, the movie made $110 million, but when you consider that the first Batman made $260 million, it was clear to see that the series had kind of run its course. There was talk of a fifth movie, tentatively to be titled Batman Triumphant, with the Scarecrow as the villain, but as we all know, this series of movies ran out with Batman and Robin. Now, what I love about this DVD set is it's got widescreen versions of all 4 movies. It has bonus discs. So we've got 4 discs of the movies, 4 discs of bonus discs. It's got an extensive documentary on the making of the entire series. It's a 6-part documentary. It's got deleted scenes on a couple of movies. It's got music videos. It's got the Prince music videos from this. It's got the Seal music videos. It's got the Smashing Pumpkins music video, the R. Kelly Gotham City music video. So it's a really great set. It came out in 2005, a couple of months after the launch of the Dark Knight trilogy, which was directed by Christopher Nolan and started with Batman Begins. They didn't want to release this at the same time because they wanted to give Batman Begins kind of its own its own launch. And of course, that was a very successful series. And last year, Batman celebrated its 30th anniversary. And Warner Brothers released the movies on 4K. And they released this really great Steelbook box set, a Best Buy exclusive, featuring all 4 movies in 4K. And the picture quality of these movies has never been better. The packaging is great. The artwork's kind of generic. You know, you've got the first movie, Batman Returns. It's basically the same thing with just, you know, different colors. Of course, Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin, of course. So this has been, you know, one of my favorite series. I absolutely love the Steelbook. The only disadvantage is it doesn't have the bonus features that came on the original DVD set. So that's why I'm holding on to these, because I'm a big fan of bonus features. And they did a wonderful job with that on this set. So I like the bonus features, but the picture quality for the 4K set is great. So that is it for this first episode of the Man Cave Insider. If you like what you saw, click subscribe. I'm going to be posting more videos. And like I said, the format is my daughter, she's going to grab something from the Man Cave. Could be a movie, could be a poster, could be a book. I don't know what it is. And then what I'll do is I'll talk about it like I did today. So thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next time.